And welcome to the Dan Bidondi Show right here on 990WBOB.com. And we are, what is it, March 11th here. Going on the 13th here. And the topic of the show tonight is Friday the 13th. So I think which is today, the 10th?
Yeah, today is the 10th.
I'm sorry, I gotta know the date, guys, sorry. But today is March 10, 2020, and this is the 2020 March 10th edition of the Dan Bidondi Show right here. The first show right here this year. Dan Bidondi Show on 990WBOB.com. So let's get the date straight. And today we're going to talk about the main topic of the show is Friday the 13th. Every year there's 1, 2, maybe 3 dates that fall on Friday the 13th. And I know it's a little cliche with some people, whatever the case, but, just for the sake of this Friday the 13th coming up and just to get away from the coronavirus news for a while and all the, just the political crap that's going on. The zoos called debates and everything else. Just unlock away from all that for a little bit and, talk about Friday the 13th and where it originated from. So a lot of people don't even know this. I mean, when they think Friday the 13th, they think of Jason Voorhees, those horror movies. I don't want to step on a crack, walk under a ladder, crack a mirror, whatever the case. And then people get into, I call it stupid stition. We can't have a 13th floor in our building. Just dumb things like that, man. And it all goes back to Friday the 13th. And, I just want to get into the origins of that. Where did it come from? How did it start? And, all that good stuff. So, and if anybody wants to call in, you're more than welcome to. Just give me about 15 minutes. It's 401-626-4665. Again, 401-626-4665. And give us your Friday the 13th story, whatever you want to do. So it's an open show today. Anybody wants to call in, chime in. Except for the trolls out there, you would be hung up on. But if you want to call in, talk about Friday the 13th and all that good stuff, feel free. But until then, again, it's 401-626-4665. So the phone number is right on the site here anyway. So if you want to call in, come on, and we'll chime in about Friday the 13th. And if we got time, I want to talk about the Illuminati 7-part plan towards the creation of a new world order. Probably not going to get to that. But just in case, we only got a 45-minute show here today. So Friday the 13th, where did it come from? It's called the Unlucky Day, and people go beyond ridiculousness. I was given a locker in school, locker number 13. Then my gym lock was 13. My uniform number was 13 because I was the 13th weight class in high school wrestling. So people was like, oh, man, you shouldn't have that number. It's like, yeah, it's just a damn number. That's all it is. So Friday 13, if anybody studied gematria, occult numerology, and even in the Bible, 13 is a number of rebellion. It could be a good thing, could be a bad thing, whatever the case, but it is the number of rebellion, and not the number 13 itself. If you have the number 13 on your license, whatever, you're not going to get bad luck. That's not how it works. It has to be invoked that way. So anybody studies spiritual warfare knows what I'm talking about. So Friday the 13th, this mystical day of bad luck. Oh man, I can't do this. Why don't you just wrap yourself in a bubble? If you feel that way, just wrap yourself in the bubble, stay in the house, and cross your fingers and dot your whatever you want to do. Anyway, so Friday the 13th, it all originated from October 13th, which was a Friday of the year 1307. It was originated from the order, when the order of the Knights Templar, everybody should know what the Knights Templar are. You see them all over Hollywood. They're glorified all over Hollywood, wrongfully so. They're deemed as the crusaders of the Christian crusaders and everything else. But far from what you hear on Hollywood, folks, not even the case. These are people not to be glorified. And you got to remember this. Anything the elite establishment glorify is usually bad. And anything they trash big time is usually good. What's good is bad, what's bad is good. That's what they preach. So, and the Bible says, woe to those who call evil good and good evil. So anyway, this over-glorified Knights Templar, the Order of Knights Templar, okay, was back in October 13th, 1307. It was the Order of Knights Templar. Grandmaster Jacques de Molay was burned alive at the stake before his death. He cursed Pope Clement V and King Philip the Fair to death before the year end, and before the year was over, both of them actually died. So what happened was the Knights Templar, They did start off as somewhat of a Christian crusade, very quickly became corrupt. Very quickly. And no, these people did not worship Jesus Christ. These people became fascinated with the occult, heavenly Luciferians. And in fact, if you actually study the Inquisition, it was the Dark Ages, hundreds of years. It was the Catholic Church at the time. They had, the dark, period. They were killing millions over the years, Christians and Jews, or anybody at that would not convert to Catholicism, or especially if you possess the Bible, because back then they believed only the priest should have Bibles, and it should be in Latin only. Nobody else should be able to read the Bible. Many of the popes made that verdict very clear, and they actually put death warrants out for anybody who would dare to have a Bible. So you get people like Charles Tinsdale, you get people like Martin Luther, these people who defied their own Catholic Church and created the Protestant Reformation. And that's what all that comes from, because they believe that everybody should be able to have access to the Bible. And that's when King Philip comes in, King James of France. He was not a perfect man, nobody's saying that, but, one thing he despised was the rule of the Pope. The Pope's rules of nobody could have a Bible, so he had his scribes, the best he could, to translate from the original Hebrew scriptures into, from the Torah and everything, into English text, the best as they could. That's where the King James Bible came from, just in spite of the Pope, and they mass-produced this. And so basically took the Pope out of power and eventually ended the Inquisition. But for hundreds of years, they were literally hunting people down. Now you get people who scoff at the Bible, saying, well, if God's such a good thing, why did Christians kill millions of people during the Inquisition? Well, if you actually did your history right, it wasn't Christians doing it. And at the time, Christians and Catholics were not on the same page. Regardless of, today they're known as Christians, yes, absolutely. But back then, Christians and Catholics highly opposed each other, big time. And so the Catholic Church was hunting people down, even their own Catholics. They even killed their own people if they got caught with a Bible. So they used the Knights Templars, the henchmen, to do such a thing. And these people are very evil folks. I mean, they practice sodomy, occultism, pedophilia, all that garbage that goes along with the occult. And it's kind of funny because today in Masonry, Freemasonry, they have a child's organization for the boys. It's called the Demolays. It's child's part of, the young men's part of Masonry. And you have Job's Daughters for the young girls. You have the Order of the Eastern Star that was created by Aleister Crowley. That's for the woman. You have Prince Hall, the Order of the Prince Hall, which is for black fellas. So, they have an organization for everybody. And so that's where all that comes from. So the Knights Templar, people are like, well, there was an organization that used to exist and all that. No, they still exist to this day. And regardless of most of them being killed off and burned, okay, it's got Pope Clement, okay, basically Pope Clement V, he ended up selling his own henchmen out. And King Philip the Fair, he was just sick of what was going on, plain and simple. And he knew the diabolical positions of the Knights Templar and what was going on, and he did not want that in his country. He goes, hell no. And so he ordered the execution of the Knights Templar, because all the deaths that these people it was disgusting what these people are doing, regardless what you learn on the History Channel, regardless what you learn, and, if they even talk about in history books, or Hollywood with National Treasure movie and all this other stuff, that they glorify these things as nothing to be glorified about. I got friends who are Freemasons, and they really think the Knights Templar is a good thing, Because in Masonry, you end up learning, when you go up the ranks, you end up learning that you're actually a Templar. That's where all it comes from. It goes back, if we could get to that part of history, I'll get to it. So regardless of what you've seen on the History Channel, or read from mainstream history books, whatever the case, Hollywood loves to glorify the Templars. And the Knights Templar started off as a Christian crusade of very poor men, and they were like medieval warriors, but quickly grew in size and eventually became very corrupt and funded by the Catholic Church, becoming the henchmen during the Catholic Church's dirty work, the Crusades. The Inquisition. So the Knights Templar were not in the Society for God at all. What Hollywood and History Channel doesn't tell you is that the Templars killed untold numbers of Christians during the Dark Ages and after the First Crusade, they were worshiping Baphomet, because now this is where Baphomet comes from. People should know because all the news with Lucius Screens, the Temple of Satan, and all these putting these Baphomet statues everywhere. Where did Baphomet come from? Baphomet was created by a fellow named Eliphas Levi. Eliphas Levi was, at the time, a Grand Master of the Knights Templar. And he created this Baphomet figure, and it's a grotesque statue. It's an androgynous god, half man, half female, and it's very perverted and disgusting, this statue. And if you don't, just go type it in Google if you don't know what it looks like. Type in Baphomet, B-A-P-H-E-T, B-A-P-H-O-M-E-T. It's an arcane deity of Satan, literally. So Eliphas Levi, he based this this deity off this ancient Egyptian deity. So if you notice all these associations with these satanic, Luciferian, arcane deities, it's always associated with some kind of a goat or a beast that's half man, half beast, half woman, half. It's a disgusting. It's putrid. It really is. So Eliphas Levi, he was a Templar himself. So that goes to show you the connection of the occult within the entire Knights Templar. And Jacques de Molay was an occultist himself. And if you actually look back with Christopher Columbus, he was a Knights Templar too, and also in the occult too. So no, these people were not Christians, folks, regardless of the garbage you heard on your TV. So most of the Templars, when this stuff was coming out, most of the Templars were hunted down for this and slayed by King Philip the Fair of France at the time. And the new pope at the time, he became a new pope. There was Pope Clement V, who turned on his own people, and on his own strong arm, I should say, his own henchmen. The Catholic Church's own henchmen, because it became known to the public what the Knights Templar were doing. So of course the Catholic Church, what's the first rule of assassination? If you use people or a person to assassinate somebody, when it becomes public, the first thing you want to do is get rid of them so it disconnects any ties that have to do with you. That's the psychology of, knocking somebody off, or whatever the hell you want to call it. Assassination or whatever, using henchmen. So they're expendable. So they'll have no problem at all saying, all right, no, they have nothing to do with us, we should kill them. You know what I mean? And exactly what they did. So Pope Clement V was right on board to say, hey, let's execute these Knights Templar, because they wanted no witnesses and nothing in any connection to the Catholic Church. So anybody out there is a Catholic, I apologize. This is history. You know what I mean? I'm not saying you're evil. I'm not saying any of that. If your heart belongs to God, God bless you. But this is the truth. This is historical truth, man. And you can't deny truth in history. You know what I mean? So, but most of the people, they believe that the Pope turned on his own henchmen to save face to the European leaders. That's what it was about, because they didn't want to be caught, because all the European leaders started learning about the Templars, what they were actually doing and everything else. So the Pope is like, we should execute them. So that's where that comes from. So this is all to do with Friday the 13th, folks. And this is what it's called, the Templars Crest. That's exactly what it's called. And number 13, like I said, in the Bible and gematria and numerology, is signified rebellion. That's what it means. You know what I mean? There's a couple other meanings for it too, but mostly it's rebellion. So to this very day, superstition, I call it stupidstition. Superstitions have evolved from this associated with this number. Like I said earlier, the tall buildings, they never have a 13th floor. It's kind of dumb if you ask me. It goes from 12 to 14. Anybody's been in a big building knows what I'm talking about. And people go crazy over it's dumb. It really is. And people just don't want anything to do with the number 13. It's kind of, it's ridiculous. It really is. And however, those of God need not to worry about a number. You know what I mean? If you're with God, okay, don't sit there and worry about a damn number. You're not going to be cursed. That's not, and that's a problem with today's churches. That's a big problem with those. The mainstream Christian churches today, they lack spiritual warfare. They don't. And I don't mean to poop on them, but you know what? It's the truth. They lack spiritual warfare. Years ago, man, hundreds of years ago, the churches, pastors, priests, whatever, would be able to tell you this stuff easily and let you know what's going on in the spiritual warfare. But, not one of them today just about even teaches the stuff, knows the stuff on their own. It's kind of ridiculous. And it's just a dumbing down of society. That's all it is. You know what I mean? And that goes back to the Illuminati infiltrating the American churches here in America to dumb down the churches. That's exactly what they did when they pushed this Calvinism crap, this Charles Darbyism and everything else. And so this sensationalism, that's what they pushed into the mainstream churches out there to completely overlook the stuff that's going on. And even to this thing here, I mean, most Christians today don't even know this stuff. You know what I mean? And when you mention the Knights Templar, even the mainstream Christians, oh yeah, they're good people. Really? Did you actually study what these people are about? Just because they had a cross on their chest? You know what I mean? If you actually look at the cross, the regular cross they have, it's like a plus sign. That's a cross of Baal, B-A-A-L. You know, it's a Baal worship cross. That's exactly what it is. And they do display a Christian cross, but regardless of the case, they are not a Christian organization. You know what I mean? And you know, it's so much involved with the stuff. But anyway, today, even though history books claim the Knights Templar were abolished by King Philip V of France, I mean this. They talk about it in some colleges. They don't touch this with a 10-foot pole in the high schools. They don't even bring any of this stuff up. And if they do, they'll say, "Oh no, the Illuminati, haha, they were a secret society that existed in the 1700s for a very short time." Same thing with the Templars. They were a secret society that existed for a short number of time, and they were killed off. No, that's not the truth. You know what I mean? These people shaped our history here in the United States, all of European history. That's why in Europe, they have a museum in Bavarian, Germany, dedicated to the Illuminati, you know, the Bavarian sect of it. These people in Europe that know the history, they know damn well that they're still around to this day. You know what I mean? And here in America, people scoff and laugh at, conspiracy theorists, go put on your tinfoil hat. And it just shows you how much ignorance there is out there, how much disinformation that they are getting fed into the heads by the mainstream media and everything else, and especially by the education system, which is a complete joke. It really is. So even though, you know, the history books and all that, you know, if you even learn about them, they say, you know, the Templars were abolished by King Philip V in France, and that couldn't be further from the truth. It really can't. And the remaining Knights Templars went underground eventually, merged with other secret societies in 1789. Was in the Castle Wilhelmsbad. It was a Masonic Congress meeting. In 1789, at the Congress of Wilhelmsbad, it was the Castle of Wilhelmsbad, and it was called the Masonic Congress. So what they did was the Mother Lodge met with many secret societies and orders to eventually create what's known today as Freemasonry. And now I have to state this, 80-90% of Freemasons out there are extremely good people. I'm not going to say they're evil people, whatever the case, but unfortunately, like I have to tell the truth, man, you know, and they are serving an evil society. You know what I mean? Most of them don't even know that. They have pastors, priests, and all these people who belong to this organization, and at the top, it's very evil. I'm going to put it that way. But as far as if your friend or family, whatever, is a Freemason, don't say, "Oh man, he's evil, he's a Satanist." No, that's not how it goes. You know what I mean? Most of them are really good people, and they, you know, they do worship God. But unfortunately, they found an evil system. So, anyway, they've been hoodwinked to believe it's a good thing. So they actually talk more about Hiram Abiff, more about King Solomon, and then Jesus Christ. You know what I mean? So, after all this, the remaining Templars went underground, eventually merged with other secret societies in 1789, with the Jacobins, the Druids, the Rosicrucian Order, which is the Order of the Rosy Cross, Order of the Illuminati, and several other secret societies with the guise of Freemasonry. So basically, at this point, the public already knew what Freemasonry was. You know, they expected little from it. You know what I mean? Nobody batted an eye at Freemasonry. Because it's like, oh, it's just an order where people get together, and no big deal. So what they did was they became a secret society within that secret society, in a circle that even most Masons in that lodges don't even have a clue that these things exist within their own system. You know what I mean? It's kind of crazy, man. You have a Mason who could have been a Mason for 30 years, still has no damn clue what goes on in the inner circles. You know what I mean? That's how secret it is. And you could have, let them know, it's like your father, okay, you and your father Freemasons for all your lives, and your father could be part of this cabal, and he would never tell you. Even your own son, and because it's these secret oaths, they take it very seriously. You know what I mean? So all these secret societies all merged together. And again, they became a secret society within the secret society. And most Masons today have no clue about any of this. until they reach a certain point in the Masonic journey, if they, previous to know this information, that they're actually part of the Knights Templar. You know what I mean? That's where that comes from. So the whole curse basically is, this whole Friday the 13th curse comes from this garbage. You know what I mean? And when the Knights Templar were executed, they actually executed them on October 13th, 1307. Then a year later, they end up capturing their Grand Master, which is Jacques de Molay, and burning him alive as well. And then they made, that's where the curse comes from, when he cursed Pope Clement V, and he cursed King Philip the Fair. And they said, like, to bring harm upon their heads, and within a year, both of them end up dying. So could there be some sorcery or some witchery behind this? We don't know, you know what I mean? So, that's regardless of what you heard on the TV, man. This is Friday the 13th and the origins of it. There's more, but I just wanted to break it down the basics and just, let people know, hey, this is real history, and you can actually look the stuff up and find it for yourself. And of course, they'll downplay it. It's like, oh, they were wrongfully accused. That's where a lot of mainstream people say, oh, no, they were wrongfully accused. It was all hearsay and conspiracy that they were wrongfully accused of what they were doing. No, that's not the truth. Philip the Fair, that's why he was a good king. You know what I mean? That's why they called him Philip the Fair. You know what I mean? What would he had to gain by killing off the Knights Templar? Because people say, well, he felt threatened by them. No, that's not the case. You know what I mean? His military could have squashed them out. You know what I mean? So why would he feel threatened by them? You know what I mean? So, you got to look at these little points in history here. And it wasn't just him. There was many European leaders that knew this stuff. And I think we've got a break coming up here. So we're going to go to a break. All right, we are back on a special Friday the 13th edition, even though it's the 10th. But yeah, this coming Friday the 13th, and I just wanted to get into the origins of Friday the 13th. And you listen to the Dan Bidondi Show with Dan Bidondi right here on TruthRadioShow.com and 990WBOB.com. So TruthRadioShow.com is my website, and I do other shows, my video cast, podcast, and everything else as well. So check that out and join my social media networks. So we'll chime in here about Friday the 13th and the occultism that comes along with it, because there's a lot of occultism that comes along with this. And now we get into the spiritual warfare aspect of this stuff here. And we mentioned earlier today about Baphomet, Eliphas Levi. He was a Knights Templar. He created this deity called Baphomet, and it kind of plays into a lot today. So in a spiritual warfare sense, like if you create a deity, okay, sure, the deity has no power. It's not a god or nothing. But if people channel into it enough, it'll actually channel demonic seething energies into that spirit of it. You know what I mean? Not that the Baphomet statue itself is a god or whatever the case, you know what I mean? But there's, in the spiritual warfare sense, basically, Satan promised all his followers a place in his kingdom. So when somebody venerates something like a Baphomet statue, it literally becomes a spirit, a Baphomet spirit, that allows and gives dominion, a stronghold, if you will, for these demonic forces. And when you have people worshiping it, it really brings these demonic forces. Not that it's a Baphomet doing this, okay? It's demonic sources involved with this. And that's why, these Baphomet statues. So as of the last 5 years, you heard a lot about these things. One went up in New York and has two kids standing next to it. It was Lucius Greaves. He's the founder of the Temple of Satan, the Satanic Temple, I'm sorry. They're right out of Massachusetts, I believe, whatever the case. And you also have the Church of Satan, too, which was founded by Anton LaVey, which he's dead now, whatever the case. But regardless, Lucius Greaves went around putting these Baphomet statues in weird places, and right in the public and everything. And it's kind of strange, too, because they had the debate over the years, because the Ten Commandments were plastered in every state capital across this country for hundreds of years. And now, I think in the 1990s, that's when they started ripping them down, the atheist groups and everything else. So now what they did was putting these Baphomet statues up. And again, it gives them seething energies and everything else. And if you notice, and I'm not ripping on anybody, I'm not, if you're a transgender, whatever the case, God bless you, I'm not your judge. Okay, I'm not going to sit here and bash on anybody. You know what I mean? But if you notice, okay, Sensei put this androgynous spirit up. And again, androgynous means half, male and female together. You know what I mean? Like a hermaphrodite, so to speak. And that's what they believe. And these are people who worship this Luciferian deity. They believe that God and Satan are the same people. Same person, I'm sorry. That God has basically a multiple personality. Yeah, they believe God and Satan is the same person. That's what they believe in higher levels of the occult. And they create this androgynous figure. And that's where the yin yang comes from and everything else. It's funny too, in the bob head over here is half white, But yeah, it's nothing to do with that. But yeah, that's where the occult, they have the checkerboard floors on the floor in Masonic lodges. The white and black. Okay, that's typical, as above, so below equality and duality and everything else in the occult. So they believe in this type of deity that just as much as evil is good, good is just as powerful, that they believe it's equal when it's not even close, you know what I mean? So that's what they believe, you know what I mean? They believe in the balance of the universe that goes into the New Age stuff and everything else. So the Baphomet statue represents both Satan and God, and both male and female. That's what it represents. As above, so below. And it's a garbage, it really is. So ever since these things have been going up, you notice a huge increase on transgenderism, a huge increase on people just drag queens and everything else. All this stuff, like stuff you would never in the world. I'm not saying these things never existed. Absolutely, they existed. But out in the open now, and again, I'm not bashing anybody at all. This is not a comment to show to sit here and bash people or anything. I'm not doing it. I'm just saying this is where the stuff comes from. Why it's such a huge rise. And if you look at it, within the last couple of years, this is it's a normal thing now. It's like exploding in popularity. Guys want to be girls, girls want to be guys, and it just exploded. And yes, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, of course, was people like that, but nothing like this today. And if you notice these Baphomet statues everywhere, the more they're putting up, the more popular this is getting, because it literally is a Baphomet spirit that's influencing people, especially people who are not saved or with the covenant of God. It's hugely influencing them to do this stuff. And I'm not your judge. I'm not going to sit here and tell you you're a bad person. I got 3 friends who are transgender, and I love them just like anybody else. So I want to put that out there. And, what you do is your business with God. I know it's wrong because the Bible tells me, but I'm not going to sit here and judge you for that. That's not how I am. So I'm just putting it out there. That's why we have a huge increase in the stuff going on right now. Because of these androgynous spirits being pushed out and massive seething energies with the stuff going on. And so how does it play with Friday the 13th? Well, this is the people behind whole Knights Templar and all that were responsible for this stuff. And then again, the Knights Templar, they are a very Luciferian organization. And you get to the other stuff about the Templars too, the Dan Brown crap, how Mary Magdalene married Jesus and had children. And they have this whole thing, the real grail of the Templar is the bloodline of Jesus Christ. First of all, it makes absolutely no sense at all to even associate a bloodline with Jesus. What does that play in the future? Because we know the prophecy, on both sides of the fence, that there's an Antichrist bloodline. The Antichrist comes from a bloodline of Cain that's preserved to the elite. So what would a Jesus Christ bloodline be anything relevant? What would it be relevant for? Nothing. And in fact, if you actually believe that, it just defeats the entire message of Jesus. But, in fact, the Knights Templar at the top, they don't believe in that. They know that's not right. There's 2 grails. There's, the cup of Christ, the blood of Christ. Then there's another one, the Chamati stone. That's a whole new show altogether. And that's where it's all about. That's where it goes down to the rabbit hole. And the bloodline that is being protected, folks, it's not the bloodline of Jesus Christ. It's the bloodline of the Antichrist. That's the bloodline that's being protected. And yes, this guy, he's going to mimic everything that Jesus did, his bloodline and everything else, but it's not that bloodline. So the Knights Templar, there's a lot of myths and stories and backup and cover stories for them and everything else. And in fact, they were right here in Rhode Island. As far as 900 A.D., they built a tower in Newport, Rhode Island. At first, for years, they tried to dismiss it as a Viking tower. And if you type in Viking Tower, Newport, Rhode Island, you'll see what I'm talking about. But it's not a Viking Tower. It's been proven that it belonged to the Knights Templar. And now, 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Then you have, in the year 900s, the Knights Templar coming through. They're right here in the state of Rhode Island. There's tons of proof of that in Cumberland, Rhode Island, and everything else. So there's so much proof of that, and the Knights Templar were here for a purpose, you know what I mean? And in the occultic world, they believe in this land as the New Atlantis. They knew about this land. Even Sir Francis Bacon knew about the United States of America. That's why it's called America, which means God's country. But on their side of the fence, it's their God's country, you know what I mean? So they called this the New Atlantis. You know what I mean? So the United States plays a significant role in both biblical and occultic history, you know what I mean, and in prophecy as well. And it's, the Knights Templar, they came here to try to establish this country before, you know what I mean, and so there's a lot of things going on with the Knights Templar even to this very day. And this is stuff that people don't even know about, you know what I mean, and the occultism that's going on. And they've laid their cornerstone, if you want to call it that way. They laid it here in the United States long ago, long before our great-great-grandfathers were even a thought in their fathers' eyes. You know what I mean? So this country from day one has been set to push a huge goal, and that's for a New World Order. And yeah, people on both sides of the fence, absolutely, who helped found this country. The founding fathers, a lot of them were Christians, a lot of them were in the occult. Benjamin Franklin, what a great president he was. I mean, a patriot. He wasn't a president. What a great patriot he was, but he was a part of the Rosicrucians, the Hellfire Club. He was a Freemason as well, and he belonged to a lot of these sinister organizations, and he was an occultist too. So, you got people on both sides of the fence that helped form this country. And you got Thomas Jefferson. Yes, he was born a Christian most of his life. Then toward his latter days, he became infatuated with the Illuminati. And he ended up writing his own, called the Jefferson Bible. He took out the book of Revelation, said it was ravens from a madman. Now, I love Thomas Jefferson. I quote a lot of his quotes all the time. What a hell of a patriot he was. But toward his latter days, he ended up becoming corrupt. You know what I mean? It was like King Solomon, same thing. So, So we have people that helped establish this country. And yes, a lot of them were part of the Knights Templar as well. And, this country is built on both sides of the fence, for both sides of the fence purposes. So I want to switch gears a little bit. I do want to cover this quick here. When I talked about at the beginning of the show, the 7-part plan towards the creation of a New World Order. This is Illuminati's, and we'll get into the Communist Manifesto. Now, Karl Marx, the guy who created the Communist Manifesto, and it's called Marxism. Okay, a lot of people quote this guy. He was such a great philosopher. But if you actually knew who this guy was, okay, you would not be quoting anything this moron had to say. And that's what these Antifa people, they love this Marxism, but have no idea what this guy Karl Marx is about. But anyway, before him, because what he did was, his Communist Manifesto is nothing more than a ripoff from the Illuminati's 7-part plan for world domination. And like I said, back in 1789, when this order was established to hide all the secret societies within Freemasonry, the inner order there, the Illuminati, they were created in, the Bavarian version anyway, in May 1st, 1776. It's the Satanic holiday at Beltane. Adam Weishaupt, he was a professor in canon law and also a Jesuit. He created the Order of the Illuminati. And now the Illuminati existed before him, too. It came from St. Ignatius Loyola, the creator of the Orders of Jesus, Society of Jesus, which is the Jesuit church. And again, it's nothing to do with Jesus. It's a very sinister thing. So it's kind of crazy, man. So they created this diabolical plan for world dominance. And it was all funded by the Rothschild. And one of the couriers actually was struck by lightning. And the Russian government actually confiscated all their paperwork and everything else. And if you want to read a good book, it's called Proof of a Conspiracy by John Robison. Go check that book out. And John Robison was one of Adam Weishaupt's secretaries, Freemason and everything else, and he revealed the plans, the diabolical plans of what they were trying to do. He was a basic whistleblower, if you want to call him that. And within that, and even the Russian government got wind of this plan, because when the courier was struck by lightning, they seen all the documents what they were trying to do. So they had to go underground and everything else, like everybody else did. And later on, the Rothschild ended up taking over the Illuminati, the World Banking Cartel. So they have the 7-part plan. It's called the abolition of all the governments. So basically, all governments, they want to abolish it. So abolish private property, abolish inheritance, abolish patriotism, abolish the family, abolish religion, and the creation of a new world order. Now, if that sounds familiar, anybody that follows anything to do with the United Nations, that's exactly everything they're trying to do. Except for at that point, they want to abolish independent religion, and they want to form a one world religion, which they have, which is called the ecumenical movement. And it's all the religions under one wing to say we all serve the same God, everybody goes to heaven. That's what the Pope Francis here preaches, and they adopted his ecumenical movement as the official one world religion. That's the Illuminati's plan, folks. This is hundreds of years ago. They made this diabolical plan to do this. And look, they're destroying the families everywhere, especially traditional families. Inheritance, patriotism, private property is going down the tank. Even though people say, well, I own my house, but you're still paying for land that you already own. You know what I mean? Even though you own your house is paid off, you're still paying on land, taxes and everything else. It's not really your property. And you're going to get a permit to build a shed, a permit on your own property. You're going to get a permit to do things. So is it really your property? You know what I mean? This is what they've been working for hundreds of years. So you have this moron, Karl Marx, to come along from the Communist Party, wrote this Communist Manifesto. And if this sounds familiar too, abolish private property, heavy progressive income tax, abolish all rights of inheritance, confiscate the property of all people, the creation of a central bank, that's where the Federal Reserve come from, and government control of communications and transportation, government ownership of factories and agriculture, government control of labor, corporate farms, regional planning, government control of education, abolition of religion, and abolition of the family as a basic social unit. So basically saying the kids belong to the state, not the parents. So these are all nothing but rip-offs of what the Illuminati had planned. It's just his version of it. And today we have a thing called Agenda 21 in the United Nations, Agenda 2030, exactly mimicking word for word just about of everything they're trying to do. They say, oh, no, it's for the greater good that you give up your private property. When I was in Texas, and InfoWars, they came to, the sustainability people came to Elgin, Texas, to tell all these farm owners and everything, you shouldn't own all that land. You should sign it over to us because it's for the greater good. And we crashed it. One woman, she had a farm, lots of acres, and third generation, and she was ready to sign some of it over to them. And we educated her, and she started crying. She's going, oh my God, I didn't know this. You know what I mean? And we ended up getting kicked out. The cops called and everything. But this is what they're doing. They're going to the smallest communities, the smallest towns, the smallest states. Just when you think it's just a bunch of people that can't be these people, the United Nations. And this is what they're trying to do, folks. And if you notice, everything that's going on today is all directly to this stuff. So that was a little switch of gear from Friday the 13th. So, and before we go, we'll leave the show here. Just want to thank everybody for joining us. And again, Friday the 13th, folks, if you venerate it, yes, that's got to be, you could get spiritual ramifications, but, it's just another day. You know what I mean? Plain and simple. You're not going to have bad luck for stepping on a crack. And in fact, I should go out there and just bust a mirror, walk under a ladder, step on a crack, just show how stupid. Just because one man made a curse back in 1307, Jacques de Molay, it's not affecting everybody else. You know what I mean? So do your own research, and thank you all for joining me on the Dan Bidondi Show right here at 990wbob.com, and also check out my website, truthradioshow.com. So God bless, shalom, and you are the resistance. Declaring war on the New World Order, truthradioshow.com. If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance. Declaring war on the New World Order. TruthRadioShow.com. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dan Bidondi, host of the Dan Bidondi Show on TruthRadioShow.com. And today is now Friday the 13th of September of 2019. Now, Friday the 13th historically is known as this unlucky day, this day of bad luck. They made movies on this. There's so much superstition I call it, involved with this. When they build buildings, they don't like to put a 13th floor. They go from 12 to 14, whatever the case is. And the number 13, a lot of people just want to be disassociated with it as much as possible. Now, all this superstition, all this stuff about Friday the 13th, where did it all come from? Well, it came from a date, October 13th of 1307. And it was originated from when the Order of the Knights Templar Grand Master Jacques de Molay. Now, a lot of people don't even know what the Order of the Knights Templar are, and some people who do, but they have very limited knowledge of the Knights Templar because we know Hollywood, even the Disney Channel and all them, Hollywood, history books, the History Channel loves to glorify the Knights Templar as they were some great crusade and everything else, but you got to find out the whole cold-hearted truth about the Knights Templar. So anyway, their Grand Master, Jacques de Molay, who happens to, we're going to get into that later, who de Molay was and everything else. But I just typed out a report earlier, I put on Facebook there and everything else, so I'm just going to read it here. Grand Master Jacques de Molay was burned alive at the stake, and before his death, he cursed Pope Clement V and King Philip V of France to death. And as he's burning alive, he said, before this year's end comes to an end, both of them, King Philip V and Pope Clement, would die. And surely they did before the year ended. Both of them ended up dead. So this became known as the Jacques de Molay curse. Now, again, Jacques de Molay, he was the Grand Master of the Order of the Knights Templar. And why was he put to death? We're going to get into that in a minute. So regardless of what you heard and seen on the History Channel, history books, mainstream media, especially Hollywood, who glorify the Knights Templar. The Knights Templar started off as a Christian crusade, and started off as very poor men, and they were like the medieval warriors, but quickly grew in size and eventually became very corrupt and funded by the Catholic Church, becoming the henchmen, basically, doing the Catholic Church's dirty works, the dirty biddings and all that, and basically they would go around as henchmen for the Catholic Church, the Vatican and everything. So the Knights Templar were not a society of God at all. I mean, they started off as a good cause, but after they became very corrupt, evil, they practiced sodomy, which is homosexuality. That was very common in the Knights Templar. And they got into dark practices of magic and the occult. And they started, this is where the Baphomet came from. Baphomet became from the Knights Templar. It was a man by Eliphas Levi, who created Baphomet. As you see the Baphomet statues everywhere. He created that based off an ancient Egyptian deity, which is also an arcane image and deity of Satan himself. So the Templars were very high into the occult, practitioners of dark magic and other occult practices, and they were the backbone of today's Freemasonry. They are the backbone, I should say. We're going to get to that in a second, but most of the Templars at the time when the truth of the Templars came out. And now I know the TV, the History Channel, all that, loves to condemn King Philip as he just made these accusations up. People came to attest how good the Knights Templars were. They're trying to justify how, to say the Knights Templar were good people and they wrongfully were put to death. And they'll defend the Knights Templar to the end of the moon. You know what I mean? The History Channel does this, especially Hollywood. They glorify the Knights Templar. And anything the elite and these big people in Hollywood glorify is always the opposite. So anyway, most of the Templars, at the time when it was discovered what they were actually doing, who they actually were, King Philip V, I mean, he wasn't a perfect guy, but you know what? He did not like what was going on, and and people say, well, he felt threatened by the Templars. That's why he had him killed wrongfully. No, that's not the case. What happened? Because the Templars were very evil men, and they still are to this day. And I'm going to get into that in a minute. But most of the Templars were hunted down for this, enslaved by King Philip V of France. And at the time, the new Pope Clement V, who turned on his own people. So basically, why he cursed Pope Clement? Because people say, well, how could he work for the Vatican? And also, this is Jacques de Molay, the Knights Templar, work for the Vatican and also be slain by, but we cursed Pope Clement, I'm sorry. Because Pope Clement, to save face to the European leaders, he disinvolved any involvement with the Knights Templar. Say, oh no, it's a conspiracy there. We don't have nothing to do with the Knights Templar. They're nothing to do with us at all. So, and basically denied them all. And it goes all through history. Every time you just say you hire somebody to go kill somebody, like assassin. First rule of assassination is you eliminate the person who committed the assassination. Or you give them up, or say, hey, this is the guy who did it, even though you paid him to do it, and you deny everything, and this guy gets the rap for it. And it goes on today with many things. But most of us believe that the Pope turned on his own henchmen to save face again because of the European leaders. They wanted to save face the Catholic Church so they didn't get criminalized or looked frowned upon of being part of this. Now, the stuff that goes on in the Vatican and the Catholic Church, very evil, dark stuff all through history. And every time when the spotlight got turned on them, they denied everything and they sacrificed their own people to save face to the public. So anyway, this is where all this came from. So, and why the number 13? Why is it, the thing is, it was on Friday the 13th, yes. And also, if you actually study the number 13, in the Bible and in the gematria is occult numerology. It's similar to Pythagoras numerology. It's almost the same thing, whatever. But in gematria and also in the Bible, 13 signifies the number of rebellion. That's where all this come from too. That's part of what was going on today. But and to this very day, superstition. I mean, again, when I was talking about earlier, the number 13 has evolved to some of the ridiculous things. People refuse to have a locker number 13 or parking space number 13 or whatever number 13, uniform number 13. I was on a high school wrestling team, and that was the 13th weight class. And I had 13 in my uniform. And actually probably good luck because I won state championships or whatever. But, And people just go beyond ridiculousness of 13. They don't want nothing to do with the associated. If they even have 13 on the license plate, some people demand the registry to change it. That's how ridiculous this thing goes. And you just want to point out too, people of God, you need to understand, okay? The number of 13, sure, it means rebellion, sure, it's evil number in the occult, but the number itself is not going to curse you. Okay, you're not going to get cursed if you build a building and actually name the floor 13. There's no bad luck in that at all. And that's all superstition. And the people who do have bad luck is just people who are not of God and people who just believe in the crap. And it dwells in them and it manifests in them because they actually believe in it. So, today, even the history books claim that the Knights Templar were abolished by King Philip V of France. That couldn't be further from the truth because, again, you'll hear on History Channel 2 and everything else, all the Templars, they were abolished and no more. They were all killed off. No, that's not the case. Okay, because the remaining Knights Templar went underground and eventually merged with other secret societies because at the time, this was the same time, mind you, right? Same time because the Vatican... very evil and corrupt, okay? And I don't mean no disrespect to you Catholics out there, but this is what your church's history was about, okay? The Illuminati, okay? The Illuminati was at the same time the Illuminati would be hunted down and killed. The Druids, the Jacobins, even people were going after so much as the Rosicrucians, which is the Order of the Rosy Cross. All right, many secret societies were being hunted down because the plans of the Illuminati got exposed. At the same time, the dirt on the Knights Templar were being exposed. Now these secret societies were like, oh boy, we got to do something. Okay, and I did a whole history on the Illuminati and everything else, and these occult. So basically, they all had almost the same outcome of being hunted down, the same outcome of being chastised about through the public, saying revealed to how evil these organizations really were. And it goes a long way. So basically what happened was at the time they had this place called the Mother Lodge in England, and it was the birth of what's today called Freemasonry. So people already knew about Freemasonry. Okay, they expected a little from it. You know what I mean? The public already knew. Even John Robinson in his book, Proofs of a Conspiracy, talk about this. He was a member of the Illuminati Masonry back then, and he revealed everything that was going on. So I suggest you get that book. But anyway, when all this stuff was going on, these societies got revealed for what they and who they truly were. So now, the remaining ones who were not killed off, they went underground, and this is all the secret societies at the time, not just the Templars. They all merged together. And I believe it was 1789, they all merged together in the castle of Wilhelmsbad to become a secret society within the secret society. They took Masonry, the Mother Lodge, and it became Freemasonry after this. Now, Freemasonry, again, people already knew what Freemasonry was. They expected a little from it. So what they did was it became a secret society, all merged. Druids, the Jacobins, the Rosicrucian Order, the Illuminati, the Knights Templar, all joined together into one organization and became a secret society within the secret society. So everybody was already familiar with the Masons, but not too familiar because a lot of the Masonic stuff is very secret. So now, within the own order of the Masonic lodges, even to this day, most Masons have no clue who these people are or even this inner circle even exists. So this goes on to today. So they hid within the secret society, and that's how they gained steam. And also these secret societies go a long way. They play into all through history, American and European history. They're funded by the Rothschilds, which is the world's biggest banking cartel. And for the sake of the video, I'm not going to go through it all right now. I'm just going to tell you just about try to stick just to the Knights Templar. So Knights Templar, they never went away. They're still around to this day. They practice the dark occults. Okay, then you get some diluted history that they protect the cup of Christ. Okay, then the bloodline of Christ. There's a lot of misinformation going around what the Knights Templar are actually doing. Okay, and there's this false information that Jesus had a bloodline. That's where the whole Dan Brown thing came in. The Knights Templar covering up the bloodline of Jesus. The royal families and all that. And there's no bloodline of Jesus Christ. Okay, Jesus did not have children with Mary Magdalene. Has no significance in the occultic world nor the biblical world of Jesus even having. Even if he did, it makes no significance of what's to come in the future. So they protect this royal bloodline, which is actually the bloodline of the Antichrist. So later on, they could claim he comes from the Antichrist when he comes to power. He's a direct descendant of the bloodline of David. Just like Jesus, he claims to be the same thing Jesus is. Claims to come from that royal bloodline when he doesn't come from that. It comes from the bloodline of the Antichrist. See, the Templars at the top know this, okay? And they tell the lower levels this and the diluted version that gets out to the public. This is what they believe, that they're protecting the bloodline of Jesus. That's the real grail, they call it. Then the other story is like they protect, you've seen the Indiana Jones of the Last Crusade, how they protected the actual cup of Christ that caught his blood during the crucifixion. And then water came out, when they stabbed him and everything. So, there's so many stories, so many interpretations of reality. And the thing is, they would never let the truth out to the public about any of the stuff. And when the truth does come out, they dilute other things just to confuse the public. And the Knights Templar, they're nothing to glorify about at all. The Knights Templar are not a Christian organization. In fact, they actually killed countless numbers of Christians because for the longest time during the Inquisition, the Dark Ages, the Catholic Church outlawed the Bible. You were not allowed to possess a Bible at all. Only the priests were. So what happened was King James, this is where the King James and the Tinsdale Bible, Martin Luther Bible, and all these Bibles came along. The Protestant Reformation, they started pushing the Bible out in English. So King James, okay, he wasn't a perfect man. He couldn't stand the rule of the Catholic Church. So they purposely put out the Bible in English. And at the time, the Catholic Church was ordering their henchmen, and even the Knights Templar as well, to go around and kill Christians and Jews, or anybody at that who would not convert to Catholicism, and especially possessing the Bible, especially an English Bible. They went out and hunted people like Martin Luther, not Martin Luther King, the older Martin Luther. And so they went out, Charles Tinsdale and all these other people who brought the Bible to you in English, you know what I mean? And King James could not stand the rule of the Vatican, so he did this out of spite of the Pope. Because the Pope, tried to command everybody around. He goes, no, we're going to push it out in English. So he took the King Philip there. King James used the scribes to translate from the original Hebrew scripture as best as they could. They took dozens of them to all come up to say, like, we're going to translate each one at a time to the best way in English we know how. And if it was so much as one thing off, they would have destroyed the entire book and start from scratch. Then they mass-produced this, and thank God for the printing press coming out and everything. They mass-produced the Bible and put it out in English all through Europe, and eventually came here, the Bible and all that. So at the time, the Catholic Church was killing millions. Now, there's another misinterpretation in history you'll hear. Oh, if God's so good, why did Christians kill all those people during the Inquisition? No. Christians did not kill anybody during the Inquisition. It was the Catholic Church that were actually killing Christians during the Inquisition for possessing the Bible, and Christians, Jews, or anybody that would not convert to Catholicism. That's what happened, okay? And there's a lot of misinterpretation out there of what's going on. This is the truth. This is the real historical truth, and that's how it is, you know what I mean? So, again, the remaining Knights Templar, they never went anywhere. They are still around today. So, Jacques de Molay, it's kind of interesting, right? So, anybody that knows anything or a little bit about Freemasonry, they have an order for black people. It's called the Prince Hall for black folks. The Order of the Eastern Star, created by Aleister Crowley, for women. The Job's Daughters is for women as well, young girls, I'm sorry. Then they have the De Molay's for young boys. And De Molay's was named after Jacques de Molay, who was a famous French Freemason, and he was the Grand Master of the Knights Templar. And Jacques de Molay, he was heavy into the occult, into sodomy, into pedophilia, and it's kind of derogatory, because, it's ironic that they would name a young boys organization in the Masonic Lodge after a man like that. Unreal. And so if you've got your children involved in any of this stuff, folks, and I'm not saying Freemasons are bad people. In fact, most Freemasons have no idea about any of this stuff. It takes them years and thousands of dollars of ritual fees and everything else to go up to the ranks, to the degrees, to actually learn this stuff. And most good Freemasons, that are good people, that want to stay with God, they stay on that path. And that's why they'll never become part of the Adept, part of that perfectly carved cornerstone that they want you to be. And that's why they'll never get that far, or be invited into the higher orders. And sure, could a Christian become a 33rd degree? Absolutely. That's Grand Sovereign General. Absolutely they could, but they'll never go to the adepts of where they really want you to be. There's higher levels above the public known means of Freemasonry. So that being said, again, just because your friend or whoever's a Freemason doesn't mean they're a bad person. Again, there are many great people out there who are Freemasons, and they're not all evil. Just people at the very top, at the order. That's why it's called the craft for a reason. And it's kind of, again, ironic that they would name the young boys organization called the De Molay's after Jacques de Molay. It's kind of ironic because this guy was into pedophilia. He was into all kinds of disgusting, vile, occultic garbage. And anything to do with the occult means secret. That's what the occult means. It's secret. And it's all perverted, literally perverted, sexual, twisted mirror image to everything of what God teaches and everything else. So that's why in Freemasonry you learn a lot about secret society. About King Solomon's Temple. They mention Hiram Abiff, Tubal Cain, and you learn about a lot of biblical people, and eventually learn it's nothing to do with the Bible at all. It's to do with the dark levels of the occult. And then most Masons sometimes it takes them their entire life and their journey in the Masonic Lodge to eventually learn they're actually a Templar. They belong to the Knights Templar. And that's why you'll see Knights Templar memorabilia or whatever garb they have in the Masonic Lodges. It's not publicly displayed, no, but they'll have shields, and that cross on the Knights Templar. A lot of people who say that's a Christian cross. No, it's a cross of Baal, okay? It's Baal worship. There's no, that cross there, you see it in Catholic churches still, it's not a Christian cross. It's a cross of Baal. And that's the same cross they had on the Mayflower, and same cross they had on the ships that came here and everything else. And, Christopher Columbus was also a Knights Templar too. John Dee, also a Knights Templar, that came here well before Columbus was even born. So, and Columbus himself was a Knights Templar. Okay, there's a lot of stuff about the Knights Templar people are not familiar with. Again, the Knights Templar here in the state of Rhode Island, long before Columbus was even a thought in his father's eye. So, right here in my own state, so we're going to be doing explicit videos on that, showing you the archaeological evidence. I'm tongue-tied, it's late at night. So the archaeological evidence of the Knights Templar being here in Rhode Island. So it's a very intriguing story, it really is. But anyway, that's your story, where the Friday the 13th come from, what it means, who it resembles, and again, I'm reaching out to people. The number 13 is not going to crush you. If you got 13 on your car or whatever the case, don't worry about it, because people of God don't have to worry about a stupid number. You know what I mean? And the only time 13 is actually powerful is for those who venerate it. Okay, and that's into the cultic world and everything else. So anyway, this is Dan Bidondi for TruthRadioShow.com. Have a good weekend. God bless and shalom. Declaring war on the New World Order. TruthRadioShow.com.